Uh, Sree has been a digital journalist, digital media, in the field of digital media forever. And he has peaked a long time ago and continues to travel further. He was the digital director for the New York Metropolitan Museum in New York City, one of the world's most prestigious, probably in the top three. Who knows? But so he was the digital director for the New York Metropolitan Museum. He was the digital director for the city of New York, for New York City. And he taught at Columbia as a professor of practice for 20 odd years. So that's already a lot. And I'll leave it at that. But Sree, thank you for coming at such a short notice, really. And it was only a few months ago that, shockingly, he connected with me. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then I asked him, will you be in India this year? And if you are, to find dates for you to speak at the International Center. So that's how it happened, all in the last few months. And thank you, Sree, again. And we have with us the ICG president, Mr. Kakotkar, who has been extremely supportive of such programs. And you would have noticed, I mean, some of you would have noticed at least, that we are also scaling new heights with the kind of speakers we are able to bring at the International Center Goa. So that's it. Sree, please.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a cold that I'm battling, but I am delighted to be back in Goa and to be with all of you. I hope that this will be an interactive session with lots of opportunities for you to ask questions. I know there are these camera men in front of us blocking some of the view. I'm going to stand down there and show you some slides in just a moment. But I just wanted to start by thanking Pushkarji and the entire ICG team for having me. It's been a wonderful experience. My 20-year-old daughter is traveling with me, and she's here. You'll meet her in a few minutes. I just wanted to ask you, how have you seen social media being used here in Goa in terms of culture, politics, society?
I think at an individual level, I think there are people who use social media regularly and very effectively. I cannot say the same for institutions. So private, smaller institutions, they need to be more effective on social media. Larger institutions, public institutions, definitely not. So I would say that there is a size thing which makes some institutions more effective, others less so. At the individual level, to some extent, it's about which age group you belong to. So I know my daughter uses social media, definitely Instagram, for example, much more effectively. I do, and she doesn't care about Twitter. So what can you do, right? Facebook, she says, is for old people. So there you go. But that's my sense, that the younger age group uses social media more effectively. The older crowd is more towards Facebook and posting photographs with their children and grandchildren and birthday parties and what they are eating and the places they are traveling to.
Sure.
For businesses, I don't really know, but say small art galleries, small cultural centers of that sort, it's a mixed picture. But I think everyone recognizes, we do, that social media is here. We have to utilize it better. And at times we just don't know how, or we find that it is very expensive in terms of getting somebody to do it for us, or taking the time to learn to do it effectively, say myself.
Sure. Sure. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. Let's do a survey of the room if we can. How many of you are on Instagram? Raise your hand. Let's look around. Actually, turn around and look. It's quite interesting. Okay. How many of you are on Twitter? Okay, that's surprising. Facebook. Okay, wow, Facebook is the smallest number. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, LinkedIn. Okay, so good. All right, so what we're, let me just put this on. Can you hear me? All right. So I'm going to be using these slides as an excuse for the conversation. And as you can see, there's a QR code there, and you can grab the presentation if you want to already. And this is the first of many chances for us to interact. I want to give you my email address. It's right there, as well as my various other platforms and things like that, so you can get it. So I was asked to speak about social media trends in 2024. And it's right that at the end of the year, as we are right now, we look back at what's been working and then look ahead at what's not been working, look ahead to see what are things that we can do to be more effective on social media. And so my work in social has been about using the tools to get out your business or personal messages, to increase your impact as much as possible. And one of my students, my former students, said this statement. He said, "We do some jobs for money and some for the honor and privilege of doing the work. If we get to do both, we're lucky." So I love that so much, I put it on the back of my business card and I printed it. And then to the young people in the room, the students, I encourage you to find work that is, that lets you to do both of this, right? The honor and privilege, and not just for the money that you get. So here you can see the range of platforms on which you can find me, and you can see on the upper left is that's LinkedIn, Instagram. This is WhatsApp, Snapchat, Messenger. Venmo and PayPal are US payment services. This is Twitter, TikTok. Anybody know what this is? Anyone know? It's one of the world's most important platforms, but Indians are not on it because it was banned in India. This is WeChat. WeChat is a Chinese social media app that is, in many ways, what Elon Musk is trying to make Twitter, or X. He's trying to make it into the everything app. Have you heard him say that? The everything app. And so that's one of the what they are doing on WeChat is a combination of Twitter, Instagram, shopping, all kinds of things, concert tickets. Everything is done on WeChat. So he wants Twitter to be like that, dating service, all of that in one place is what his goal is. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, you got from Pushkar a very generous, very positive description of my bio, which I'm very grateful for. But I want to show you that I didn't have just a perfect career. I got to work at the Metropolitan Museum, as you heard, for 3 years. I had the most wonderful time. I learned a lot, and it was the most meaningful work I did. But they were having financial difficulties, and I lost my job. And I went on Twitter, I went on Facebook, and announced that I've lost my job. And I said, please tell me what to do next. And I gave people a Google form and said, give me ideas. And I got some great, wonderful ideas and some awful, terrible ideas from people around the world. About 1,400 people filled in this form. And so what was the worst moment of my life became a global digital hug that I got. And I was so grateful for it to have that. So if you, part of my presentation is everything you see on the screen, you can click and read. So if you have the presentation itself, you'll be able to grab everything on here, including a TV station did an 8-minute segment on me. They followed me from the morning, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. saying, look at this crazy guy talking about losing your job at a time when people didn't do that. Now people talk about it sometimes, but so I tell people about when you want to look for work, most people, what I did here is on a scale of 1 to 10, I did a 20. I don't recommend it for anybody, but I tell people that this is an example of how you use social media to get the word out on something. And I've had the chance to learn a lot through this process. It's very humbling, as you can imagine. And in fact, my parents, I told them last that I had lost my job because a 46-year-old, they don't know what to do with 46-year-old son who's unemployed. So that was a major problem. Anyway, I survived this. I got a job at at City Hall in New York as the Chief Digital Officer of New York City. And I write a lot about technology, and I have a newsletter that I just wanted to tell you about. That's sreenet.substack.com. So if you if you're interested, you can subscribe to it. Throughout my presentation, I'm going to give you names of ideas, tools, technology, platforms, and it'd be good to have 2 columns on a piece of paper or on your phone or on your computer or on your laptop if you have it, or just on your phone. You can have 2 columns: things to know now, things to try now, things to try later. You may want to do that. And now what I do is, after working for the city, I run a digital consultancy called DigiMentors, and we work on helping brands big and small. We do a lot of work with the UN and various agencies on helping them with their social and digital media. So that's one of the things that we do. So I'm going to spend a minute now telling you about 2 ways in which I look at the world of communications. And first is through this sentence, that the scarcest resource of the 21st century is human attention. How do we get it, keep it, and grow it is the most important thing that any of us can do. And it doesn't matter what the topic is, human attention can help you address or find success in what you're doing. And this was said by the former publisher of the Wall Street Journal. And some of you may disagree, right? You'll say, why is the scarcest resource human attention? Why isn't it clean water, clean air, or things like that? And I would say that the way you can get anything done in the world now is through this human attention, and getting it and growing it is really, really important. By the way, as I'm speaking, if you have a question, a comment, or anything you'd like to ask, please just raise your hand. So this is one set of ideas from this work of thinking about human attention. The second is through this theory I call the 2 footprints. And I believe all of us have 2 footprints. One is our physical footprint. People who know and love our work, who are admirers of everything we do, people who have seen us in action, etc. That's our physical footprint. Our digital footprint is everybody else in the world, in the online space. And we, as human beings, spend a lot of time about our physical footprint. How do we make sure we are doing our work well? How do the people who know us see us? How do they appreciate what we do? But I don't think we spend enough time thinking about the digital footprint. And I encourage all of you to think about how you can improve your digital footprint. And some of the things we're going to talk about today are going to be about that. So if you don't think enough about your digital footprint, you're leaving opportunities, money, impact on the table. And that's for you to consider. So one of the things that I've been honored to do is I work with the Nobel Prizes. They have a foundation and they have a committee, and I work with them. And I said to them, why do you want digital help? And they said, we want more impact. And I said, you're the Nobel Prizes. Why do you need more impact? And they said they need more impact because we only think of them twice a year, when they announce the winners and maybe during the ceremony, right? But they're the Nobel Prizes, the most important awards in the world. So if they feel they need more impact, what about the rest of us? What else can we do to increase the impact of the work that we do? So this is my theory of the 2 footprints. So I'm going to share with you here what I call my dirty secret of social media. That almost everyone will miss almost everything you do. We have this idea that if you just put something on social media, everybody will see it. Everybody will understand it. Everyone will appreciate it. But the fact is that almost everyone will miss almost everything you do until you make a mistake. And if you're sitting in the back, you may not see it, but I just added a second sentence there, right? Until you make a mistake, then people may not see it. Once you make a mistake, then everybody sees it. And we know so many examples here in India and elsewhere in the world about this. So let me pause here for a minute And what are your thoughts on this idea? What, first of all, do you agree? And second, how does it impact the work that you do or the work that you see in the world? Anybody jump in, please? Anyone have a thought? Don't be shy. You want to say something? Yeah, very, very well put. Thank you so much. Others, any thoughts on that? Yeah, please go ahead.
So I think there's a misconceived notion that a lot of people use social media, to check upon others. But the major thing is that people use social media to relax a lot. It's not like when they're working or they just want to, have an escape from their daily life, right? So they're just looking and then they're just scrolling and dopamine hits. So what they're looking for is something to take away their attention from, right? So, and also there is the algorithms that social media uses. Sometimes they are promoting posts with photos and sometimes they are promoting posts with carousels. For example, LinkedIn is doing that right now. So what happens is, as someone who uses social media, we have very little control over what others see. What you can do is you just follow what the algorithm is currently promoting right now and choose what you want to show the world and assume that enough people will see it so that it will spread. And even then it won't reach all of your followers because you're competing with the entire world right now, right? And the social media platforms, they choose what they want to promote. Sometimes they promote content that that you're following, people you're following, right? They promote, and sometimes they just promote ads, and sometimes they show you content that everyone else is seeing, but you may not be following that specific account. So this is there, and all of these factors influence what your followers see. So you're not just competing with what the other people who are posting on social media. You're competing with the world and the algorithm. So there's a lot of things that control. So in that, what I feel is that yeah. So as I was saying, so we are missing a lot, right? So we have to assume that people will miss unless we make a mistake, and again, which will again, like I said before, it will take away their attention. So yeah, that's what people are looking for, something that will take away their attention from what they're doing currently.
Okay, thank you. Very well put. Anybody else? One more thought, please. Jump in the back. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Anybody?
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you, sir. Can you tell us what is the role of AI in social media? Advantage and disadvantage.
Okay, thank you.
Percentage also.
Yeah, I'm just going to. I have an entire different presentation on AI that we obviously are not going to get into today, but I will share with you my AI presentation so you can take a look at it for another time. AI is, as you know, has changed the way people are putting together content, right? That's one of the big changes that has happened now. And we are seeing it every day in terms of people are adding content on social media using AI, either images or text or articles or any of those things. And so I think that AI has already changed dramatically how people are using social media. And so a lot of poor quality content is now on social media, a lot more of it, because people can just easily create photographs, images, all of that. So we're seeing that as a major part of how people are using social. And I'm sure we'll come to more questions around AI in our work. Any other thoughts? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure, you're absolutely right. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about all of us always be learning, is about the importance of learning as you're going about your daily life, right? Like, what are some new skills you can add to the work that you're doing? And so during the pandemic, I decided that I'm going to learn how to use YouTube as a creator as opposed to just a user, as a consumer of YouTube. And I learned something really important about YouTube, about how hard it is to get followers and build a following on YouTube. I just learned how hard it is, because it's partly because I'm old compared to the young people here. But to get 1,000 followers on YouTube was more work than getting 5 to 10 to 20,000 followers on other platforms. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One is that on YouTube, almost like you're doing retail, one-on-one, one-to-one, getting one follower at a time on YouTube, whereas on other platforms it's different. But why do people care so much about who they subscribe to on YouTube and may not care who they follow on Instagram? The reason for that, I think, are two things. One is that when you subscribe to somebody on YouTube, it shows up on your feed in a very particular way that's different from Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And second, if you connect your YouTube to your TV and you're sitting with your family, every decision you made about who to follow comes on your big screen with your family, and you don't want that, right? So it's a very unusual situation with YouTube versus other channels. But one of the things we're learning is that in 2024, you're going to see YouTube is going to be even more important than it is now. And we think about all the other channels, but there's so much you can do on YouTube and should be doing on YouTube. So I'm sure we have some YouTube creators here, the folks who are creating stuff on YouTube. Yeah. So I encourage you to spend more time doing YouTube. So one of the ways I think about social media is this comment from my student Jim Rosenberg. And Jim said that websites are like your home country, but social media is like your embassies. So if you think about your website is where you're sending, from your social media, you're sending people back to your home country. And therefore, at a time when a lot of people are critical of websites and say websites are not important, I think they continue to play an important role in what we're doing. So let's take a look at the top social networks at the end of the year. And I'm sorry that you can't all see from where you're sitting, but let me read these out loud, right? So Facebook is 3 billion, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, WeChat, TikTok, Messenger. This is a Chinese platform called Douyin. Telegram, Snapchat, another Chinese, another Chinese, another Chinese. Twitter and Pinterest. So when you look at this list, what are some things that jump out at you? Number one is that Mark Zuckerberg owns 4 of the top 6 platforms are owned by Mark Zuckerberg. That's one thing. What else jumps out at you? Anybody? In a list like this, somebody forgot to put LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has 900 million users, but they forgot to put them on this list. Another thing that jumps out at me is look where Twitter is. So low on this list, right? But Twitter makes a lot of noise, but it's down here. And it's always been the case, even before Musk bought it, that there's just a lot of attention and noise around Twitter, even though it's so far much lower than all these other platforms. So something for you to think about as we think about the reason Twitter makes so much noise is because journalists are on it, SRK is on it, right? Film stars, celebrities, all of those folks are on it, and that's what you are seeing. So let's talk a little bit about how to master storytelling in 2024. What are some of the things you should be thinking about? So number one is that social media is about storytelling, and you should be doing all you can to tell stories online. It's really important. So a way to think about this is, if you are trying to tell we try to tell stories by giving as broad and big stories as possible, but it's much better to be much more specific and tell small stories. And there's a great writer in the US named Priya Parker, who's Indian, and Priya says that we should all be focused on telling stories rather than focusing on broad themes. So she tells the story of how she went to a funeral, and at the funeral everybody was sitting, crying, and one of the officials got up and came to the podium, and immediately everybody was quiet and listening, and instead of saying anything else, this official started by saying, okay, who parked the blue Toyota in the wrong place, please move it. Here's where the bathrooms are, and give logistical information instead of stories about the person. And that's a really important way for all of us to think about the work that we're doing. So I'm going to tell you a story, and this is in 1981. This is a alley in between two buildings in New York City. And there's a story about a young man who was coming to Columbia University and had to tell his roommate that I'm coming. And he didn't, in those days there was no social media, no Snapchat, no Twitter, no anything. So he sent a postcard that I'm coming at this time. He came, no, his roommate wasn't there. He was banging on the door and couldn't get in, and so he was really upset. And so he took his suitcase and went in this alley and slept on top of his suitcase, the first night in New York City. And you can imagine how nervous he was. He had come from another part of the US, didn't know anybody in New York, and was so nervous. Now, if you saw somebody banging at your neighbor's house, how would you react, right? Would you have helped this young man? Or would you have said, okay, he's going to sleep in the alley there? So this is a story, some of you may know this, story of Barack Obama's first night in New York City was sleeping on this suitcase in this alley. And what's fascinating about it is, imagine if you were a neighbor of Barack Obama. And would you have said, oh, Mr. Future President, please come and have coffee with us. Please sleep on my couch. Or would you have called the police or something like that, right? So part of the reason I tell you the story is because it's a great story. But also, we judge people based on how they appear online, and that's a major problem. So an example of that is that if someone has 500 followers, we say, okay, he's worth this much. If someone has 1,000 followers, double of the previous person, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a real problem in the way technology works. I call it the original sin of social media is having these follower counts. And so we judge people based on how many followers they have. And that's a major issue. So same way here, how you would have judged the future president of the United States, we judge them all the time online. When in fact your follower count doesn't say how valuable or interesting or important or influential even that you are. So social media is also about visuals, and how do we get more visuals into what we're doing? And like I told you the story of Obama, you would have loved that story anyway, but it was improved by this visual of where he lived. It's the same way. So always think about what are you doing with visuals in what you're putting on. Social media is also about moments, and how do you capture small moments in time rather than trying to do everything online. So that's something else I think about. Social media is also about trust. How do you trust what you're seeing? How do people trust your content? You know, when they retweet, repost, take your story, take your image and put it on their IG story, that's a level of trust that they're showing in your work and in what you're doing. And then social media is about relationships. How do you build relationships online that will help you in the work that you're trying to do? And then finally, social media is about two more things. It's about generosity. Instead of talking about yourself all day, talk about other people, talk about other institutions, talk not just about how great you are. And finally, social media is about people. and how do you get attention to the work of people in what you're doing. So here are some things that social media can do for you. Number one, help you find new ideas, trends, and opportunities. Connect with audiences in deeper ways. Bring eyeballs, traffic, and attention to your work. And help create, enhance, and improve your brand. And I find that most people do one or two of these things. Most people don't do all four things. So if you can think about ways in which you can incorporate all four things, you're going to be more successful on social media. Well, social media also has problems, as you know. You know the term FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. It also gives you what's called tech neck from looking down on your phone all day. Loneliness, and you can also insert your societal crisis here. So we're going to do something together. I want you to know that the way we use our phones, looking down like this, is really bad for our necks, right? Basically, we have the weight, we have a very heavy head, your skull, you're looking down like this. So somebody who was an expert on neck health attended one of my workshops like this. So she said, please teach everybody how to be safe with their phones. So we're going to do a little exercise. So her point was that, you're on your phone like this. This is really unhealthy. Even holding it up just a little bit will save your neck. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do. If you would all take 2 fingers like this. Everybody do this. Take 2 fingers. Put it on your chin, right? And then push back. Not up, but back. So you should, like this. Just do that. That'll build your neck muscles so that when you're old like me, you're not like this and in pain. So try that again. Just push for 2 minutes a day. She said if you do that, not up but back, right? 2 minutes a day. If you do that, you will save your neck. 20, 30 years from now, you'll save your neck. So I encourage you to do that. It's this is part of, they also tell you don't put the phone in your bedroom, all of those things. People say that, but everybody keeps the phone in their bedroom and makes it hard to sleep. So when you think about how the world has changed, I like to look at these images from the transition of the last 2 papal transitions. So this is 2005, from Pope John Paul to Pope Francis, and this is Pope Francis. To Pope Benedict, and Pope Benedict to Pope Francis. In 2005, there was one hero, look at this, with one phone here. Do you see him? Nokia phone, does everybody see him? And now look what happened. This looks like candles, but it's not candles, right? You see the difference in just a few years, how much has changed. Somebody said, if this happens today, there'll be live streaming, and everybody will turn around and be taking selfies. Right? So what we want to think about is, what are things that you're doing in 2024? What will you be doing in 2024 that reflects the way social and digital media is used now rather than it was used all these years ago? So let me show you a couple of things. For the Catholics in the room, you all know what purgatory is. And here the Vatican offered time off purgatory if you follow the Vatican on Twitter. So in Christianity, there's heaven, hell, and then there's a period in between called purgatory, which can be thousands of years you're just lost. And I'm not Christian, but I follow the Pope in 8 languages because I don't want to take a chance in case this reincarnation doesn't work out. So otherwise you're going to be stuck for 1,000 years because you didn't follow him, right? This is so brilliant on their part that they could offer you this ultimate reason to follow him. It's pretty brilliant. So I was asked in 2015 about what are tech trends, and I said it feels like 2005, 2006, where you're seeing podcasting, email, blogging back then. Today, you're seeing some of these are around, some of these are not around, and things change so fast in everything we do. And when I was at the Met, people would ask me, who are the rivals of the Met? And I would say our rivals are not other museums. Our rivals are Netflix and Candy Crush and just life, life today. That's the competition, and that's what makes it hard. So I want to give you a couple of examples of how social media is hard. Here is an article, a tweet I did, and I got 100,000 plus impressions. I was so excited, I thought I'd get lots of new followers, and I got one new follower. So you have this idea that if you put out great content, people will just follow you. It is just not always the case. Here, for example, I got 225 new followers in one day. So I said, wow, I've got the formula. I'm just going to create this great content. It'll be great. Well, that same day, I lost 158 followers for the same content on the same day. Right? So you have this idea that you can get tons of followers based on that. And that's really difficult. By the way, including one of the people who unfollowed me was somebody I helped. I got him a job. I can't even look at the screen. I get upset. Right? So that's the reality of the world and how people use these tools. Oops. So let's talk a little bit about followers. Everybody wants to know how to get more followers. And I say that on social media, it's not who follows you that matters. It's who follows you that matters. Meaning, it's important to have lots of followers, yes, but it's much more important to have influential followers, people who have a lot of followers themselves. So it's great to get thousands of followers, but if you have the right number of people in your industry that you're interested in, that's much more important. That's how I look at the world in what we do. And so, for example, one of my clients is called the UN Refugee Agency, and they have 2 million followers, which is obviously amazing, 2 million followers. But their top 100 followers, so of the 2 million, top 100 followers have 500 million followers. So that gives you a sense, right? This top 100 followers have 400 million followers, right? So what that tells you is that it's great to have as many followers as you can, but really focus on getting influential and people who are active in your field to follow you is the way I think about this. So let's talk. Oops, sorry. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So I want to tell you that when I was young, I wanted to be a millionaire, and I can tell you that I became a millionaire, but in unread Gmail messages, as you can see here. So. In fact, there was a story. Somebody looked at Priyanka Chopra's phone, and she had 250,000 unread messages. And here I have slightly more than that, and so it was pretty funny. Now, who's looking at this and getting really upset because you like to have your unread messages be 0? Raise your hand if you're like the person who wants to be close to 0. 1, 2. Yeah, okay, so I call you my inbox 0 heroes. So let's get some ideas on how do you do it. What do you do? Oh, you've given up, okay. What do you do, sir? So you delete right away. Okay, good. Give me some more tips, because as you can see, I need your help. Yeah. Mark all as red. He said, select all, mark as red, then you feel like you got inbox 0. Great. What else? Anybody else? Any other ideas? You fix a day and just go through things. Okay. Anybody else? Any other ideas? Yeah. How about you? Where are you in this? Are you like this side or a 0 side?
Well, I like to keep it clean, but after 10, 15, I start to get worried.
Okay.
So and then it takes up a lot of space too.
Sure.
There's all kinds of stuff happening there.
So when you see this, are you
horrified.
are you horrified? Right? Yeah. Who's horrified by this? Okay, few people. So you're in good company. So one of the things that I tell people is that when you're creating content, we heard earlier also somebody was talking about people are just scrolling all day, right? So scrolling, so I tell people create thumb stoppers on your social media, right? As you're going. So what is your thumb stopper going to be? What is an image or a map or a cartoon or something that will accompany your content so that people will stop and read your content? That's what you should be looking at. There are lots of tools. Typorama app is a great tool. There's so many others. This is my wife Rupa. So many thumb stopper tools, and I encourage you to play with them and see what makes the most sense for what you're doing. As we think about kind of AI, Grammarly, is Grammarly popular in Goa, right? Yeah, so that's an example of kind of early AI for your content, and a lot of people obviously continue to use that. So now I want to spend a little time as we wrap up here to talk about LinkedIn. And I always say LinkedIn is underappreciated. I say it so often that people quote me saying LinkedIn is underappreciated, as you can see. So one of the things that I talk about, that in any business, when you're in institutions, you'll see that social media, communication marketing, in every part of a business, you have social, digital comms is really important. So I want you to think about ways in which the work that you're doing can be reflected in this. So now here, I showed you this before, but you can just see that somebody created a list of the top social networks and forgot to put LinkedIn in it. And that's the problem that LinkedIn has, that it's an afterthought in what we're doing, right? So I'll walk you through a couple of LinkedIn ideas, but I just wanted to also think for a minute about the other networks and what's happening with each of them. So you know that Mark Zuckerberg wanted to do the metaverse. Do you remember that? He made such a big fuss about it, and it's already dead. He spent $10 billion and fired 10,000 people after going to the metaverse and then forgetting that he wanted to do that. We've seen how Twitter, all the problems that Twitter has had, and so people are leaving Twitter, going to other platforms, and there's so many other platforms. I know that TikTok is not there in India unless you use a VPN, and TikTok was very successful in India until 63 accounts were taken, 63 apps were banned by the government. But you can see here that companies are hiring people who can make TikTok or Reels on Instagram, things like that. So something to think about for the young people in the room. And with Instagram, you're seeing how it's being used to drive local traffic in whatever you're doing with the Instagram tools. How many of you are on Threads? One person in the room? So 2, 3, 4, okay, 5, 6. So not that many people. Is Threads available in India? Can you get it easily? So a lot of you love Instagram, so I'm curious why you're not on Threads, or you're just happy with Instagram. Anybody? Doesn't have as many users, so okay. Okay, all right. Any other thoughts on Threads? Anyone? Yeah.
You easily get followers through your Instagram.
Okay. So you are on it. So you are using Threads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Europe, Threads was banned till last week because of privacy issues with Twitter, with Meta. They had banned it, and now they just allowed people to use it. So they're very careful about privacy, as you know, in there. And some tactics and strategy that you can think about. I always tell people, post your best social media content again. It doesn't always have to be brand new stuff, because if so much content you're posting, your best stuff, you can post it more than once. You can also do a lot of behind the scenes content, process content, are things that I encourage people to do. And of course, people are doing so much now on Reels, and live video is also really popular. And thinking about how to use shorts in YouTube, right? YouTube shorts have hugely successful. As you know, a lot of these tools are kind of imitating each other as they go forward. In terms of Twitter, you know, the pitfalls of it, all the issue problems that are on it, but it's still so powerful, especially as we go into the elections next year. And one of the things I tell people is that NASA, the space agency in the U.S., has a very interesting social media strategy. They invite famous people to come and see rocket launches and all of that, but they also bring people who may not be famous but have influence within a community, including high school students and others, to come and watch and treat them as if they're much bigger organizations. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a couple of quick ideas. Number one is that please set up your Facebook legacy contact. Do you know what that is? Who has done this here? Anybody? Everybody should do this. What it is especially for your parents and others, it's a way to designate someone in Facebook to look after your account after you pass. For the young people, they won't care here, but tell your parents and other people. My mother sat in these sessions like this, and I would tell her, please set up your Facebook legacy contact. And she didn't, and she died. And it was a major hassle for us because of all the messages and everything that came in. So please Google Facebook legacy contact, and please designate someone to do this for you in your family. It'll be very, very important. I can tell you from my own experience. So please do that. And the second is managing favorites. We already heard about the algorithm problem, right? We can't control what we see, but there is a way on Facebook to control what you see through through what's called favorites. So that's my wife Rupa. And when you go on somebody's account, you click on friends and you can see favorites. You can pick up to 30 different people or brands to be your favorites. So you will see only what you want to see first. Instead of complaining, oh my God, the algorithm is so bad, which it is, it's terrible. Think about adding the people that you want as favorites in your into your Facebook. It will change your Facebook life. It will improve it dramatically because you're seeing who you want to see first rather than the algorithm itself. So as we wrap up here, I just want to talk about the importance of tools that work both on your laptop and your smartphone. There's so many tools that do that so well, of course. And now, at the end of the year, I always use this tool called Future Me. Has anyone seen this? It's a free tool, futureme.org, futureme.org, and it allows you to write an email to yourself that will show up 6 months, 5 years, 10 years later. And it's pretty amazing. So we do this in my family every December 31st. We write a letter and it comes 5-10 years later. It's pretty amazing. So you go in, you write whatever you want, and you can choose when do you want it delivered. You can choose a specific date, and this letter will come back to your email in that time. It's a really nice way to, just to think about your year, think about the things you're interested in. It's a very nice little thing. So futureme.org is a lovely, we think about resolutions and things like that, but this is really nice. Okay, so before we go to questions, I want to share with you my social media success formula. We think about how our content should be each of these things. How do we make it helpful, useful, timely, informative, relevant, practical, actionable, authentic, generous, credible, brief, entertaining, fun, and occasionally funny. And this is a formula to be successful on social media. And I think for all of us, this is a way to think about what we're doing, right? We often, on social media, we don't do enough of I'm not saying all your posting should be all of these things, but all your posting should be some of these things to be successful. So let me pause here and let's take some questions.
Actually, I'll take the first one.
Sure.
just two questions or two observations. First is, I do a lot of scrolling, and everybody at home does, and we pull up each other every now and then. Stop scrolling, be here. Yeah, yeah. So my question is this: the timelessness of social media is something. I mean, I like social media, but the timelessness is something which concerns me. That there is no
The time
end.
sink.
Yeah, I mean, no, that there
Time
is no
suck.
end to it.
There's
I
no
mean,
end
it's-
to it, yeah.
I mean, it's the internet
Yeah.
broadly, but I think social media is in some ways more addictive.
Sure.
That's one. The second thing is you talked about digital footprint. You talked about the need to be there and for individuals, institutions, and such. And what really bothers me there, and you mentioned privacy in between, that our private lives are lost, right? I mean, you talked about making a mistake. You make a mistake and your private life is exposed. You are somebody remotely famous, your private life is exposed. And it's, you go anywhere, anything you do, somebody is watching, somebody is clicking, somebody is shooting a reel and putting it out there. Now, is this something we have to tell ourselves that this is now a part of our life? There's no escaping it. And the sooner we do it, the better it is for us, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you folks think about this? I think the question of privacy is almost gone, at least in a Western context. That it's very hard to have anything private, is how I've seen it, and it's a major problem. But we should get the young people's thoughts on that. So, questions, comments, please. Anyone have? We can talk about anything you like. It doesn't just have to be what's on what we discussed today. Happy to answer any questions. Yeah, please. Sure. Sure. There's a phone microphone coming. One second.
You've talked about everything here that makes makes one successful on social media, whether that's personal or a brand. But what I think is missing here, especially in the Indian context, or maybe just today's context, is the responsibility, the amount of disinformation.
Yes.
And where is our responsibility as social media users? Well, it's two sides of the same coin, maybe. Yes, we've lost privacy. Some of it is in our own hands. You don't have to put everything out there. But what do you do, especially in the Indian context with WhatsApp University, to combat disinformation? And you talked about elections coming up next year, and many other things like that are easily influenced by fake news that is considered gospel truth today.
Yeah, thank you. So really important that we talk about misinformation and disinformation. And when you look at Mark Zuckerberg's tools, right, WhatsApp and Facebook and Messenger and all of these things, Instagram, that we're really worried about the elections, not just in India, not just in the US, but UK. There are 63 major elections next year, including in places like Indonesia, Bangladesh, etc. And what that will mean for how we use these tools. You've heard the famous statement, that the truth is still putting on its pants when a lie has traveled around the world, right? Meaning that the truth is just slowly getting started by the time the way a lie goes around the world. And we've seen this, especially on WhatsApp. We saw it during the pandemic, when the lockdown, and how much fake information was being circulated on a regular basis. And I know this happens in my family, where somebody will see something and just forward it without even stopping for a second to check whether this could be problematic. And so how do we teach our own family members to fact check before we send out things, right? There are various tools out there that can help you fact check. Boom Live, for example, does a lot of fact checking. But we have to do this. You've seen things that come across in your WhatsApp group, right, that says there were bicycles were invented in India 4,000 years ago. Do you remember this? On WhatsApp, this was circulating. Do you remember seeing this? They said, this is a bicycle. An image was found in a temple. And it's just not true. But they said that it became very popular. So I think we all have a role to play in correcting, questioning the content that we're sending out and what's being shared. Thank you. Another couple of questions?
Sir, do you think that to stop spreading misinformation, stringent laws are required?
You're asking about laws.
Laws, yes.
Laws for that, yeah.
Otherwise, to stop spreading fake news or misinformation.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be efforts to regulate this, but governments have shown all over the world that they fail when dealing with misinformation and disinformation. It is just a fact of life that the people who are creating these tools and creating the fake information are much better equipped than everybody else and are dedicated to spreading this misinformation. And they prey upon us, right? They know what are the things that we will be excited about and then go out and spread it. And that's the problem. So I don't know how much regulation can help or how much government laws can help, because the governments are not often the best at keeping track of these or solving these issues. So I don't know. I'd love to hear any other thoughts on that. Yeah, go ahead. Mike is coming.
Now you said one needs to do fact check. As a consumer of information, to what extent a person can fact check and how reliable are the fact check sites?
Yeah, great question. My rule of thumb is if it's too good to be true or too bad to be true, it probably is. Meaning if it's too wonderful, it's probably not true, and if it's too bad also, it's probably not true. So how do we check that? How do we do it? There are these sites that focus on fact checking, but it's not easy. I totally agree on that it's a lot of work. It's much easier to hit like or forward than take that, put it into Google, see what it says, etc. It's just very hard. My mother, who I told you passed away, she used to forward a lot of health information because she wanted people to be healthy. But some of it was not true. Because it just feels like, you can, there are some shortcuts that you can do. So it's very, very hard and not easy for people to understand that. Another question? And by the way, if you're seeing the war in Ukraine, you're seeing the Israel-Gaza war, right? Those are full of misinformation, disinformation, lies, and it's dangerous. That's the problem. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. You put a slide that the scarcest resource is the human attention.
Yeah.
I think there should be one more word added there. The scarcest and the scariest resource.
Very nice.
Because sometimes you have too much of attention. I mean, that's your next slide actually.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for digital detox?
Oh, wow. So, have you ever had a doctor who smokes? Have you ever met a doctor who says, do not smoke, they will tell you, and then they smoke? So I'm like that. I will tell you not to do all these things, but I do them. So I'm not the right person to ask. But I can tell you that for the first time in 25 years, I took 24 hours off my phone and my laptop for the first time about a month ago. And I was having physical symptoms like a drug addict of just for 24 hours I didn't use my phone or laptop, and I couldn't work because I wasn't taking a photograph. I was eating my food instead of photographing my food. Oh my God. Who does that? Who just eats their food? They have to be photographing their food, right? So I think detoxing once a week, I did once in 25 years, so again, I'm not the one to ask. But please log off. Please find time with your friends and family to be off your phone. It really makes a difference and might be the thing that saves us. Other questions or comments? Yeah. Yeah, there's a mic.
Hi. So
Hi.
you mentioned that businesses are truly, it's a crucial thing to have, how do I say, impact.
Yeah.
But why do you think it's important for a regular person who doesn't have a brand to have an impact?
Okay, thank you. So that's a very deep question, actually, if you think about it. What I tell people is that the reason to have impact is not because you're trying to change the world necessarily, but you want to have impact in just the work you're doing, right? Everything nowadays is a game of persuasion. How do you persuade people to care about the things you care about? So whether it's your office CSR, for example, in your office, there may be a little budget for CSR. Are they going to give it to cleaning up a park or doing something else? You, as an individual, have a role to play in those kinds of decisions. So even if it's not that you're trying to be famous, you're trying to be influential, but your entire life you're going to have these encounters where you're persuading somebody to listen to you and listen to your point of view. And that's going to happen no matter what. And that's going to make a difference in your own success for sure. So that's why I encourage you to think about it. But I like your question because that means you're not thinking that we all want to be famous for something, right? Or we want to be online to be famous. There's a Salman Rushdie, the author, says that there was a time when people were famous because they'd done something special. Now people want to be famous because that'll make them feel special, and there's a big difference in the two. So I like your question. Thank you. We have one more question here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You put out a slide there saying that sometimes our work is not just for money, and the privilege, the honor that comes with it is also a very important return. So I work in the positive news field. I have Goa's first and exclusive positive news startup since last 3 years.
What is it called?
It's called livenewsgoa.com, and it came about when I abruptly lost my job in mainstream leading channel of Goa during the COVID pandemic. So anyways, what I wanted to ask you, it's been very hard to get followers because probably people are more curious about the negative stuff, and they follow a lot of platforms which provide negative, horrific, sensational stuff. Even with very poor editing, they get a lot of followers for their videos on YouTube. And I wanted to know whether there's any mechanism where YouTube suggests, recommends some content which may not be, that useful for the society, but those platforms still get a lot of following. Whereas what I'm trying to do is valuable work, sometimes for the privilege and honor and being useful for the society. And I find it very hard that people, don't even give attention. Even the institutions, they are not bothered as such, because they also have to be stakeholders in trying to, support people who are going to support the society to evolve in a very informed manner. So what's the way that I can get my content more eyeballs and recommendations on YouTube?
Okay, so first let's get him 50 more followers today, right? livenewsgoa.com. So everyone,
Goa TV on YouTube.
Goa TV.
Live News Goa TV on YouTube.
Okay, but if you just go to,
I think I'm quite sure I follow you.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite sure I follow you on Twitter.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm subscribing to you right now.
Thank you.
So couple of interesting things. So I see you're not on Instagram. Is there a reason you're not? Why are you not on Instagram?
I'm not a fan. I am kind of old school, so I don't really enjoy that platform. But I will be interested to collaborate with a very passionate Instagrammer. I can collaborate. I have been open to collaborations.
What do you guys think? Should he be on Instagram? Yeah, that's the number one. So you're getting free consulting right now. So definitely get on Instagram. I think is going to be important. And I'm looking at your work. It's really amazing. You're doing such positive news. Thank you for doing that. Let's all give him an applause. What's your name?
I'm Neeraj Prabhu.
Neeraj Prabhu. Okay, everyone look. say hi to him afterwards. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, hello. Yeah, Sree, lovely presentation. My question is, I have moved away from posts to reels, So, I love the concept of reels.
And stories, right? And stories.
And stories, yeah. So, but more reels. And I use the same content on Insta and Facebook with the same music. And it's very interesting to see which scores, which gets more hits. It varies, But I have a question. I have moved the same content I am trying to put on YouTube Shorts. And though I have a YouTube channel, which is doing quite well, the YouTube Shorts is not picking up. I'm a recent entrant into YouTube Shorts. But that same content which is rocking on, say, Insta and Facebook as a reel, the same reel is not doing well on YouTube Shorts.
Anyone have any
I can't
thoughts?
understand why.
No, it's a good question. Anyone have a thought on that? Why would something that's doing well on IG Reels not do well on Shorts? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Sorry? So he said it's could be because your YouTube subscribers are expecting longer form, serious content, and now the Shorts thing is new, and they may not be connecting this. So it's very interesting. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, the algorithm is not. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Do you have a thought? Okay, here's a thought over there. You can see.
I would like to know about the data data being stolen. I put up a content, and as soon as it's put on a site, the same thing gets copied on multiple sites, and even they have a higher rating than what is on my site. So how, you say it is a news item, okay, and the
So they're stealing your content and putting it on other sites. Oh, terrible.
See, now suppose the life of a news, say maybe is around 36 hours, okay, and even if you file a complaint with, say, Google or someone, they take a lot of time to sort it out with their copyrights and everything. By the time the news is not of relevance anymore, but I don't get, though it's my content, I don't get the usage that.
I mean, these people who steal, they're just pirates. They're just pirates.
They just grab up,
they're scraping your content and taking it. Yeah, it's horrible. So have you complained? Have you told them?
Complain to Google, complain to everyone, but they take that time. By the time the value of the news is no more.
Yeah, that's amazing. So but that means your content is good. I mean, that's the people are taking it.
So
wow. I mean, apart from, have you gone to the source and talked to these companies?
Yeah, they like.
Tell them to pay you. Say you're welcome to take my content,
no,
but
they don't even they have these sites where they even if you complain to a DCMA complaint, there is nothing done to them. And then also they have this the website that hosts this. Even if you complain to them, they hardly respond to your thing because they have just email where you can complain to them, can get to them directly.
So sorry, I'm so sorry.
Any other thing that can be done for such?
Anyone have any ideas what can be done? Anyone have any ideas? Watermarking of content. What about that?
It's just data.
Just the text. Yeah.
Text,
So it's a problem. It's a problem. Sorry to hear that. Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
I'd
go
just
ahead.
like to ask one question is, you said Facebook is quite an old generation now, maybe my generation. I remember using Orkut and then Facebook came into picture. So that's, this generation I believe is Instagram and the next two particular apps. Attention span is something that we're all dealing with. How do you make an impactful content with respect to shorter version or a long form content? Because that's a dilemma that lots of content creators are dealing. Like he said, that platform is a problem. But then again, if I want to deliver a message, it's a short form or a long form. And do you remember the last good reel or a viral story? because we are of a generation that we find a lot of difficult challenges to give good content, but a viral song or a Urfi Javed is quite sensational and viral. How do you deal with that?
Wow. No, it's a good question. What do people suggest about this issue? I think it's a fundamental issue for so many content creators. What can we do when people want the short information, right? How do we get them to get deeper? How do we do that? We have young people in the room, so we should ask them, what can we do? How can we reach you, young people? Is it possible to reach you, young people, with deeper content? Is it possible? They don't want to talk to us. They don't want to tell us the answers. Yeah, we're too old. Yeah, comment in the back or question? Somebody has is it a new question? Are you commenting on this or? Yeah, hold on, just let them answer the question.
What I would say might work is, instead of simply trying to reach quote-unquote young people, being more specific about the type of person you want to reach, not just in terms of demographics, but psychometric profile as well. Because I'm friends with a lot of people who watch 5-hour podcasts in one go. So it's not just it's not about, oh, we don't have the attention span. It's that, what you have is not what we want to buy. So catering it more in terms of the type of psychological profile of the type of viewer you want. Am I making sense? So I would say that try to be more specific in the type of young person you want. Maybe it's somebody who watches a specific kind of TV show or listens to a specific kind of music, but try to hone in on that.
Thank you for that. But I just want to point out my daughter has just walked in the room. The Durga, just wave in the back. Hi, her name is Durga. She has a twin brother who's not here. But yeah, hi. Durga is working on sustainability issues. She's very concerned about the future and environmental issues, so she's working on that. Another question or two? Yeah, sorry, you had a question here.
Do you think that there is a link between the time a person spends on social media and the likability of how how they'll forward misinformation? So do you think that there's a link? I mean, the greater time you spend on social media, the more likely you are to forward misinformation.
I don't know. I haven't seen that I haven't seen a study on that, but I will just say that we have to be super careful about what we're consuming and what we're sharing. Like everything that we share, we should make sure it's accurate. And I don't think we're doing a good enough job. And next year's elections are just an example. It's not just the election time, right? I mean, we saw, as I said, during the pandemic, how much misinformation. You're a public health person. I mean, what do you tell people about public health?
Well, interestingly, one of the things we did during the lockdown was Vikram Patel, a professor of mental health currently at Harvard Medical School. He happened to be in Goa at that time, and we actually did a discussion here, session here. It wasn't live, but we put it out there. And some of the things that he talked about, I mean, I'll send you a link of that 1 hour conversation. It was exactly how it played out. I mean, what I was surprised by, months later was that he said, look, these are not the things that need to be done. This needs to be done. I don't remember the details, but the point is, people who were in the public health sector, broadly speaking, and he's an expert on mental health, were pretty much able to see what society, how the public would react, what governments would do or would not do, and it just played out more or less that way. So that was one of my most remarkable experiences for the pandemic. Talking to somebody, it was I think early June, so everything was in a lockdown. He was able to come here, and we just made a recording. I don't think enough people have watched it, and that's why maybe I'm also mentioning it now. But listen to that discussion. So.
Thank you. Let's do one more question, maybe. There's a.
Hi again. So I'd just like to share this. It's not really a question, but it's something many of you have mentioned here, many creators, saying that keeping content short is an issue you're facing. However, I'd like to think that keeping content short is also a solution to the new generation. Because your content is short and precise, you've got me hooked, wanting more, bringing me to your page, bringing me searching for more reels, searching for more information on you. So I'd like to say, even though you may have a lot of good content that you want to put out in one go, maybe just put it out in bits, because that will keep me hooked for a longer time. So that's just my feedback as a consumer of content.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's great advice. Any other advice from, there are a lot of content creators here, but I think hearing like that from a content consumer is really interesting. Anybody else want to suggest anything? We're open.
Actually, I would like to add a little bit to that. It's, for one of the things that academics do is write books and write journal articles, which very few people read, relatively speaking. I mean, actually, very few people read it. So one of the things that many contemporary academics do, and there are now platforms which allow you to do that. So let's say I'm doing research on, contemporary Goan art, for example, right? And I take various forms. So I might end up writing a book, but that's going to take me 5 years, right, to get everything together. I might also write a journal article, which will take me less time, but by the time it's published, it's still 3 years away, 4 years away. So what people have started to do is, on various aspects of the book that I'm writing, I break it up and I write shorter pieces. So it can be part of, it can be published by an online magazine, newspaper, journal, etc. And so when you talked about short content and I want something more, so that something more doesn't happen immediately. That something more takes time. So I don't know how it works on digital media, but for the print, people who are into the written word, for them it has to be different formats. So somebody who doesn't like to read a full book can read in 1,000 words, 1,500 words, more or less what you have to say. And if I'm interested, I'll have to wait for the book, of course, right?
Okay, anybody else? So I'll just wrap up by sharing a couple of thoughts. The first is that we're in a very unusual moment in history where we're already complaining about misinformation, disinformation, and the AI revolution has just started. So imagine what's going to happen with fake content at the scale at which it's coming. We're seeing, for example, it's so easy now to have, with just a little bit of Pushkar's audio, I can have him say anything for an hour, right? I can type up something and in his voice publish it globally. That's coming, that's already here. Video, fake audio. And at the scale at which it's going to happen is going to do great damage to society. So, we will look back at all the all the things happening in social media in 2023 and say that's nothing compared to where it's going. And that's really worrisome, I think, in what we do. The second is we talked about human attention, and you gave me, more than almost 2 hours of your attention, and I'm super, super grateful to all of you. I hope you'll keep in touch. If I can help you with anything, I'd be delighted. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you soon. Thanks.
On behalf of the International Center Goa, and I would like to first thank Sree, and of course the audience. You have just made it a wonderful, wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.